Hi, I'm Michele Hammond and I'm the botanist for the East Bay Regional Park District. And I will be sharing a project with you today called the Soft BirdsBeak Habitat Enhancement Project in Mattel Marsh. And let me share my screen with you. Okay. So on this lovely slide, there's a picture of the soft BirdsBeak blooming. So in my talk today, I'm going to give you an overview of the enhancement project, talk a little bit about soft BirdsBeak ecology and the pepperweed control we're doing in its habitat, and give you some of our results. So where is Point Pinole? Point Pinole is on this slide, it's highlighted in orange up in the left-hand corner, and it's in the northwesternmost point of Contra Costa County within the Park District. And zooming into Point Pinole, Whittell Marsh is located in this red box area of Point Pinole. You may have heard of our restoration project that we're doing in Tidal Marsh, which is on this side of Point Pinole, but I'll be only talking about Whittell today. So why is Mattel Marsh important to protect? And really, why are marshes important to protect? The San Francisco Bay marshlands provide important things to our cities, like rainwater filtration, carbon sequestration, and they also provide amazing wintering bird habitat, as a lot of you probably already know. Marshes also provide habitat for rare plants and wildlife, like salt marsh harvest mouse and ridgway's rail. In this photo, Mattel Marsh is of Mattel Marsh. It's showing the habitat for a rare plant, which is the point of our project and talk, which is soft BirdsBeak, which tends to grow in bare areas near channels within the marsh. This is historic marsh habitat in Whittell that supports these rare species with a complex and diverse vegetation structure. Here you can see the soft BirdsBeak in the top of the slide, which is sort of light purpley gray, surrounded by dense pickleweed. And there's also marsh heath in the foreground, which is Frankinia salina, and also a patch of saltgrass, obvious right here. This slide shows an excellent map made by the San Francisco Estuary Institute that illustrates the loss of tidal marsh within San Francisco Bay. On the left-hand side, it shows the historic extent of tidal marsh in green with the approximate date of 1800, and the red arrows indicate where Point Pinole is within San Francisco Bay. The right-hand side map shows the current extent of tidal marsh. In green is current tidal marsh, and then restored baylands and a planned restoration and enhancement of marshlands are in the darker green colors, but essentially this is the tidal marsh that we have left. Approximately 85% of San Francisco's tidal marsh habitat was lost to human development since 1800. It was diked, drained, and filled, and there's really 15% left. And these maps are a really great illustration of the loss of this tidal marsh habitat. So besides being important habitat for rare plants and animals, marshes are important to protect as habitat for people like me and you. They also provide recreational outlets. I love to walk along the bay and look at the birds and plants. Mattel Marsh is uniquely one of the only sandy beach marshes in San Francisco Bay. This photo shows the marsh at low tide with the mud flats to the left here, turning into a kind of rocky and then sandy beach coming up to a berm. This photo also shows along this berm that it is covered in pepperweed, although there are the occasional little spots of gum plant here and sticking up a little bit. So what this photo really illustrates is the need for a Mattel Marsh pepperweed control plan. So the main reason we started this marsh enhancement project is the naturally occurring population of soft BirdsBeak. The scientific name is Chloropyron molly, subspecies molly. And this is the title page for the 2013 recovery plan for tidal marsh ecosystems of Northern and Central California. And soft BirdsBeak is included in this plan, and a photo of it here, because its status is federally endangered and California rare. So soft BirdsBeak is endemic to the San Francisco Bay Area. Point Pinole is one of the only natural or not introduced populations left. The plant is an annual plant, which means it grows from seed every year. And it is also a hemiparasite on saltgrass and pickleweed as its host plants. That means that soft BirdsBeak derives some of its energy, not all, it would be straight up parasitic, some of its energy and nutrients from the plants that it grows on or on the roots of. And in this case, this photo is a really great illustration of the diversity of Whittell Marsh. With soft BirdsBeak here in the middle, it's this purple, it has kind of purple-green calyx here, and then the corolla or the petals of the flower are these white little kind of tipped in yellow flowers. And this is pickleweed here growing next to it. And there's some saltgrass in there, right there. This is also marsh rosemary. And there's marsh heath, which is Frankinia salina, growing here as well. And I really like this photo because it kind of illustrates the complexity of the vegetation structure in Mattel Marsh. So this is a schematic of tidal marsh habitat to show you where the soft BirdsBeak is growing. And its photo here shows you that it is growing near the top of the tidal marsh in the transition zone. So it grows in the upper transition zone next to the grasslands, which you're hearing about actually in a different talk today. So that's exciting, lots of Point Pinole today. So one of the exciting things that happened this year, and I think will really help us move forward with the conservation of soft BirdsBeak, is our inclusion in a species status assessment. I was contacted by Scott Jones of the US Geological Service, who's pictured here with his team. And he's participating in the US Fish and Wildlife Service 5-year review of the species. And his study involves measuring the habitat of soft BirdsBeak, which will inform any future introduction efforts, as well as doing a genetic analysis to get at population dynamics of the species. So our job is to try and combat the immediate threats to the soft BirdsBeak population out here. And we've identified pepperweed as being kind of the #1 thing we can really manage. So what is pepperweed? Its Latin name or scientific name is Lepidium latifolium. It's a non-native invasive plant. It's a perennial, which means it's long-lived, and it is rhizomatous. So that means that it grows mostly not from seed, but through rhizomes, which are underground root structures. So that's how it spreads, mostly vegetatively. So what if we did nothing? No control, or what if we did no control with the pepperweed in Mattel Marsh? This is that same slide I showed before of the pepperweed on the berm between the beach and the pickleweed part of the marsh. If we did nothing, this might happen. So this is a photo of essentially a total monoculture of pepperweed, which is growing as far up this drainage as one can see in the photo. And I got this photo off federal website about how to control this plant. It's a nationwide problem. So I worked with my integrated pest management team. Well, I'm really part of the team. And pictured here are Becky Tuden and Pam Bites that are locating the pepperweed for me, locating the suspect, which is right here. You can see it blooming sticking out of the pickleweed. So together we mapped the pepperweed and created a habitat enhancement plan, or more specifically, really a pepperweed control plan for this section of Mattel Marsh. And when you're trying to manage pepperweed, mechanical treatment is not an option. It doesn't work, especially when you're trying to preserve the vegetation where it is invading. So mechanical treatment are things like hand pulling, which is not effective in this case. For this plant, pepperweed can grow back from any 1 centimeter size piece of a plant. So hand pulling, you're leaving a lot of the roots in the ground. And obviously a bulldozer in a native marsh is really not an option either, because it would be too destructive. So we used an aquatic safe herbicide, and our treatment timing was in May to early June. It was a little challenging to schedule. And we spot treated with backpack sprayers where possible. And the first year of treatment, we contracted with Mark Heath and On Point Land Management for the larger pepperweed patches. And we planned that the native marsh plants will fill in where the pepperweed is killed in the treatment areas. So in terms of monitoring, part of this habitat enhancement plan obviously involved monitoring the treatment areas. We had 3 objectives. The first was to measure the reduction of pepperweed. And the second was to keep track of the soft BirdsBeak population, which is growing adjacent to the treatment areas. And we're also going to keep track of the native cover of the marsh and ensure that other invasive non-native plants are not filling in where the pepperweed is killed. So first, I'm going to talk about the pepperweed reduction monitoring. The objective here is to reduce pepperweed to less than 1% cover in 5 years. And this map shows the pepperweed treatment areas in orange here, all along essentially the edge of the marsh. And again, this is Point Pinole up here in the map, and we're looking at Whittell Marsh, which is contained, or which is occurring in the red box. So one of the monitoring methods for the reduction of pepperweed is permanent photo points. These are the numbers here in the yellow circles. Those are our permanent photo points. So this is one of our photo points comparisons. On the left is the first time we took the photo in 2019, and on the right is post-treatment in 2020. So on this berm here, this is all pepperweed with the white flower on top. And this is again pre-treatment. After treatment in 2020, this same area, these are the gray dead stalks of that pepperweed. And this is the same time of year, and I want you to note there are no live blooming pepperweed plants in the post-treatment photo in 2020. So this is another photo point, which shows the same combination of years. This is pre-treatment pepperweed with all the white flowers blooming, and you can see it all the way down here as far as the eye can see on this berm. This is all pepperweed. And in 2020, post-treatment, there's the same time of year, all we can see are the dead stalks, the dead gray stalks all the way through here. At any rate, very successful from a photo point standpoint. So another way we monitored the reduction of pepperweed was with ocular cover estimates. And this was done in addition to the photo points, and we did it on a subset of the treatment polygons, shown here again in orange. So we also assessed the soft BirdsBeak population with an annual population estimate. And we did both direct counts and as well as quadrat estimates when there were too many plants to count directly. So here is the same map showing where soft BirdsBeak patches are within the pepperweed treatment area. the green dots are the locations of the soft BirdsBeak. The yellow circles here, named T1, T2, and T3, represent where we did native cover transects, which I will talk about the next slide. So we did point intercept transects, which is you use a tape and you walk along it, and we did 25-foot transects and chose and looked at the first hit for every foot. And this essentially was measuring what was filling in where the pepperweed was treated. We also looked in the broader area of the transect for live pepperweed and any other noxious invasive plant like marsh tumbleweed, salsola soda. So now for our results. So some results for the pepperweed reduction monitoring. We saw a radical reduction of pepperweed. It was very exciting and very fulfilling, very gratifying. The photo points showed no live plants. Our ocular estimate subset of treatment areas showed 0% live cover in 2021. Now, obviously, this is not the whole area where pepperweed is growing, and we will definitely be continuing to monitor every year, both the previously treated areas and new treated areas that we'll talk about later. We'll be continuing to monitor and spot treating any pepperweed that grows back. So the results of the soft BirdsBeak monitoring were also really positive. We just want to say that the soft BirdsBeak population is stable and that there was a new patch of soft BirdsBeak found in 2020. Now, it's not possible to say that our pepperweed treatment caused the spread of soft BirdsBeak or the increase, because it's not really set up as an experiment. But we can say that there is no evidence that the treatment is detrimental to soft BirdsBeak, and that soft BirdsBeak showed up in the same locations in 2021 as in previous years. So for the results of the native marsh cover point intercept transects, we found that the cover of native plants, or essentially the area that those native plants cover on the landscape, was increasing in the treatment areas. And there was an average native cover change of 20%. And again, this is an N of 3 because there were only 3 transects. The native species that we measured were pickleweed, saltgrass, marsh heath, gum plant, and fleshy jaumea. So for next steps and for sort of a more long-term view for Mattel Marsh, I'm going to adapt this habitat enhancement project to new pepperweed areas within Whittell Marsh, both directions within Whittell, as well as over on the Dotson Marsh side and anywhere else we're finding pepperweed. Probably also up in Pinole Shores, which is a new part of the park that's to the east of Point Pinole along the bay. I'm going to continue with the soft BirdsBeak annual assessment. And because of the increased traffic, we had a big increase in visitors throughout the park district, and it showed up in Point Pinole, where I started to notice there was more social trails in the soft BirdsBeak section of Mattel Marsh. And this is probably increasing the erosion problem there. So I'm working with the park and some interpretation folks to create a new Mattel Marsh interpretive sign on the Cook's Point, which is the beginning of Mattel Marsh, to basically explain how amazing this marsh is and why people need to stay off the pickleweed, stay out of the marsh. We will also be documenting and looking for solutions to sea level rise and erosion within this tidal marsh. And this is why I'm excited to be collaborating with the U.S. Geological Service on the 5-year review of soft BirdsBeak that will also help come up with solutions in the face of climate change and sea level rise. And there was a district sea level rise assessment that was done. And if you want more information about that, it is available on our website at the address in the bottom of the slide. So I just wanted to say thank you to our IPM and vegetation team who did all of the treatment, or a lot of the treatment and all of the monitoring, as well as the help I got from Point Pinole staff and my Uber volunteer, Denise DeFries, who's out there in Point Pinole with me whenever I'm there, and as well as thanking Mark Heath and On Point Land Management for their excellent treatment of those large patches. Any questions? And I'm assuming the questions will be moderated at this point. Thank you very much.